What's up, guys? It's Eric from DarkMatterX, and today we are doing the DM-3 shifter install guide on our very own Toyota GR Corolla. Now, just a heads up, this install, it's pretty easy to do. There's no custom cutting or modification you got to do to anything. You just put it in the car, it fits with the factory boot, and all the steps, with the exception of one, can be done from right inside the car. So there's going to be a point we're going to hop under the hood for a little bit and install something. But other than that, everything's done from the driver's seat of the car, and you'll love this. The brackets, or anywhere you're putting hardware on the DM-3 shifter, if you can see that green paint marking at the top or the red at the bottom, it's all paint marked, right? So we got a piece of hardware here, paint marked red, goes in the red hole. Super obvious, super clear where to put everything, and there's only a few pieces of hardware that we got to install. So let's jump right into it. Here's a quick overview of the tools I'm going to be using in today's install. We've got a 3/8 driver, 6-inch extension, 12mm socket at the end of that. We've got a screwdriver here that can interchange from flathead or Phillips. Got a pair of pliers, a pair of side cutters, a T-handle 5mm Allen wrench, and a 90-degree 4mm Allen wrench. Here's a quick overview of everything that's going to come in your kit. This is the main assembly of the DM-3 shifter. We've got green paint marks on the front brackets here. We've got one there, one there. We've got some yellow paint marked bolts for the 5th and 6th gear shift stop here. We've got a couple more paint marked yellow bolts here and there. That is for the gear stop. And then in the back here, we have two paint marked holes, red and red, right? Now over here, this is the front bracket that's going to hold the OEM cables, paint marked green, goes with the green holes. Over here we have the shift plate adapter. This has blue paint marked holes, here and here. We've got some more blue hardware over here that goes with that. And then we have the rest of our hardware over here, green and red, that goes with the shifter. So let's go get the factory shifter out of the car and start installing this thing. I like to get this step under the hood finished first. That way we can wrap this up and then jump into the car. So what we're going to do is disconnect this line, pull this harness off, and pull the bottom part of the air box off. So we're going to undo that line, give us some room to move some stuff around. We're going to open up the air box. You want to pull this little snorkel thing out of the air box, and then we're going to separate it here, pull the air filter out, and this box on the bottom here has these rubber grommets that sit underneath of it, and there's these little plastic pins that push into the grommets. So we're gonna want to separate these two components like this, and then pull this box straight up, and make sure you move this. Okay, so now this should look something like this, where we can see that shift cable coming in right here. So we're going to remove this pin that's holding that shift cable onto this little transmission shift plate. And then we're going to grab our wrench. We're going to grab a 12mm for these bolts here, this bolt here and this bolt here, and we're going to remove this counterweight. Now for the next step. This is the hardware we pulled off over here. So we have the counterweight, we have a little hitch pin, and this little spacer, and this is the stuff that came with your DM-3 kit over here. So this is the shift plate adapter that we're going to install now. And then we've got our two blue paint marked washers, our two blue paint marked bolts. We've got this little bronze bushing and this little hitch pin here. So what's going to happen, we're going to put this bronze bushing over that little post right there. So that's going to align with that. And then these two holes right here are going to align with the counterweight right down there. And that's what we're going to use our blue paint marked bolts and washers for. So bronze bushing goes on post. This hole goes over the post. These two line up with the counterweight, and we use this hardware to reinstall the counterweight. And then this provided hitch pin right here will secure the top of the post here, that little post, through this hole. Then we're going to connect to the OEM cable right here with this old hardware. Let's do it. Okay, now for the final step, we're just going to tighten those two bolts up down there, and we're going to be done. Go ahead and tighten those up and reinstall the airbox and close the hood. We're in the car, and now we're going to remove the factory shifter. So we're going to start by pulling off the shift knob, and we're going to loosen up this center console area. The only panel that I'm going to actually be removing is this section right up here, and this little control is screwed into it. So you're going to want to grab a Phillips for this, and once we get this panel into our workspace, we're going to unscrew this control out of it and pull this panel out. The rest of this stuff, you can just kind of work your way around with your hands, and there's clips around the perimeter of it, and same with this section right up here. There's clips around the perimeter, and we just kind of get it loose like this, get this piece loose, get it pulled up, and then we're going to want to separate this section right up here from this section. So I'm just going to hold this piece, pull up on this with my fingers, right, kind of like that, and then get this pulled out of the way, get this here, and then I'm going to put the camera down, but I'm going to pull this section out, pull the shift boot up off over the shifter, and then unscrew this panel. Now that we've got this boot and section removed, you're going to want to grab a 12mm socket, extension, and a wrench, and you want to break loose and just remove actually all four of these mounting bolts for the shifter. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you can see these little like cable tie harnesses, I guess you could call them. They are normally connected into the shifter right here, but I already had mine removed. So there's one there, and then there's one back there, and one over on the right. And you're going to want to remove those completely so that the cable, that harness, is just off of the shifter body. And there's still a couple more things you're going to want to do, which is remove this cotter pin down here, holding this factory shift cable to the shifting system. And then you'll want to remove these two cables up here out of the shifter. So to do that, there's these little barrel tension adjusters on the back side, and if you just rotate them, so from our perspective, you'd be rotating counterclockwise, and then you can lift those up and out on the left and the right side. You can rotate those and lift them up and out. We're going to remove this pin off of the shifter down here, like that. Got that cable free. Okay, and now I'm just going to remove those 4 bolts, and then I'll be able to actually get this whole cable disconnected from the shifter. Once you get the shifter pulled up like this, it's still going to be attached to one of the shift cables, which is right under here where I'm pointing to. There's this little spring pin type clip that holds the cable to the shifter. So you're just going to want to separate this with one of your fingers. You're going to want to work on one side and then work on the other. And once you've separated both of those clips, drops right down like that. And we'll have this little plastic cup left over, which we're going to remove now off of the shifter. To do this next step, I like to grab a pair of pliers like this, my nicest pair of pliers, and remove this cup. It's holding some pressure onto this ball down here. It's like got these slots in it, right? Little slot there, little slot there. So there's kind of like 3 almost separate sections on this cup up here. And I like to do the section that doesn't have the metal pin in it. You can see there's a little pin there, a little pin there, and then we got a section here with no pin. So I'm just going to stick my pliers right up like this onto it, and I'm not even squeezing that hard. I'm just applying a really light pressure just so it holds its position, and then I'm just going to pull it back. Just like that. Now I've got that removed. So we've got 2 steps left now before we can start installing the DM-3 into the car. The next step will be putting that little ball that we just pulled off onto the DM-3. But first, before we go do that, I actually want to show you this step. It's more of just like a good tip. It really helps sync up this cable with the DM-3. So what I'm going to do is grab this thin tip Sharpie, and I'm going to make sure my shift cables are all in neutral. So you'll know you're in neutral if this cable here can push in and out. You can pull on it, right? If you're in gear, if this is pushed into a gear, this cable won't be able to move like this. It'll just have a tiny bit of movement. So now that we know we're in neutral, we're going to make a Sharpie mark right on this metal shank where it enters this black plastic sleeve. And that's going to be a reference mark for a little bit later. Next step, we're going to place this little cup that we pulled off the factory shifter onto the DM-3. It's going to go on right here. And what I like to do is find a nice solid surface like this table, and I can just place it there. And then I'm going to line it up here with the ball. Okay, and what I'm going to do now is just take my right hand and just push down on the shifter to attach that cup into the ball, just like that. And now we know it's attached because it's not coming off, and we heard that nice snap go on there. Next, what we're going to do is pull this white spring-loaded clip back, and then we're going to pry this little pink box up out of the black plastic cable end. So I'm going to use this flathead right here so I can get under there. So I'm going to pull that white clip back with my thumb, just kind of pulling that back against the spring, and then I'm going to get the flathead underneath of the lip of the pink box there, and then I'm just going to pull it up. See, it might take a couple tries. It's kind of a tight space there. Okay, I got it right there. So I'm pulling that up. That little white spring-loaded piece goes forward. So now this whole black plastic cable end is able to be repositioned on this metal shank here. So next, we're going to do, start installing the DM-3. So we're going to put this bracket up in the very front, up there, and each one of the cables is going to slide into these slots, and they need to go all the way down. You need to make sure you get those cables all the way down in their slots. So twist those little barrels and push them all the way down. Next up, we're going to grab the DM-3. Now right here in this front opening, this is where this shift cable needs to get routed through. It's going to go through there, and then it's going to snap back onto that little plastic cup there. And then the other cable is going to connect up here to this side. So let's go ahead and route that first shift cable in. It should look something like this, where both of those clips are securely over that ball. And when you put the shifter down in there, the front shifter mounting bracket needs to sit on top of that bracket that's holding the cables. So they're both marked with the green marks, and that's where the green hardware is going to go. So I've got it in there now, just kind of like this. It's just loose in there still. And then what I'm going to do next is actually start getting my hardware inserted in up here. So you'll want to grab for each side the green bolt. And you see these are some nice stainless steel countersink bolts. Well, we've got these nice anodized spacers here for those bolts. So you're going to place that spacer onto the countersink, and then you're going to start screwing them in. And you will need a 5mm Allen for that. I like to use this T-handle here. Gives me lots of room for access. So I've got those bolts in, and they're not tight yet. I've just sort of got them down so they're flush with the brackets, but I haven't tightened them up yet. Now I'm going to do the ones in the back, and I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to install them back there. Are two red marked bolts. You got one on the passenger side, one on the driver's side over here. And we have these two little spacers to put underneath of them. So we're going to insert it just like this. Screw that down. Now once you have those ones in, then what I would recommend doing is just cross torquing it. Maybe start in that corner, tighten that one all the way, come back, start tightening this one, and then that one up there, and then back here. Just go around in a pattern and get them all nice and locked down. Next up, after you have tightened the mounting brackets down, you're going to want to grab a 4mm 90-degree Allen wrench, and you want to break loose the two bolts that are holding on the gear stop to the main assembly of the shifter. So these are paint marked yellow. We got a bolt there, and then a bolt right up front, and you want to crack them loose to where the gear stop is a little loose. You can see when I wiggle the shifter, that gear stop's moving. You can see when I'm wiggling the shifter, the gear stop is moving with it. That's what we want. So what we're going to do is get the shifter in neutral. It's in neutral, and we can see that this detent is right in the center. That's all we want, and now it's ready to tighten down. So tighten the bolt up here and tighten the bolt in the rear all the way. Now that the gear stop is tightened onto the shifter, you're going to want to shift your car back. So let's go into fourth. Okay, so we should have a little bit of a wiggle there. You hear that? That's when I'm pulling back on the shifter. You hear that? Yep, that's normal. That's what you want. You want a little bit of a gap between this lever and that shift stop. And same goes for third up here. You'll have a little bit of a gap. And that's all preset during assembly. All you need to do is break loose those bolts here and here, and then align it and tighten them. Now it's time to sync up this cable end with the shifter. Double check that you have this pink box popped up and that this black cable end is loose on the end of the metal shank of this cable here. So what we're going to do now is just connect this up, oriented just like this, to the black plastic piece here of the DM-3 shifter. Now this piece right here is going to go underneath of this black piece, and then it's going to push up into it. There's a little stud and a post that this hole is going to go up into. So I'm going to go ahead, push that back, support the top of it with my thumb, get it lined up, and I pulled it up into it. You'll feel that sit into it, and now we've got this little part that we've got to sync up with the shifter. So go back to the metal shank and look at that Sharpie mark that you made, and what you're going to want to do, you can actually just pull the cable around and pull that metal shank out of the sleeve. You can see where your old Sharpie mark was at, and what you want to do is you want that Sharpie mark to be right in the same spot right when it enters that sleeve, okay? But you want that pink box to be locked down, and you want the shifter to be in neutral. So I don't see the Sharpie mark, So it's in the wrong spot, right? It needs to come out a little bit. So if it needs to come out there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the camera down, and I'm going to do this with both hands, and I'm going to hold one hand here, and I'm going to go down, and I'm going to hold this pink box down to lock it onto the cable. Now that we got that cable locked down, let's check all the gears. First gear. When we're in first or any gear after this, we want a little bit of a wiggle. So you want to hit the shifter right from the side. Before you engage that stop, there should be a little bit of a wiggle room. This is what you want. So first, second. Now for the last step before we put everything back together, we're going to set the 5th and 6th gear shift stop. So when it's set, this is what you want. You want to shift over and hit that nice firm wall. This shifter is crazy rigid when you engage the 5th or 6th or the 1st or 2nd stops. So to get that nice firm feeling over there for 5th and 6th, the yellow paint marked bolts here and here need to be adjusted. So go ahead, grab that 4mm Allen wrench again, and break those 2 bolts loose. Grab your 4mm, put the shifter in reverse, pull up on the collar, push it up. Now it's going to give you plenty of access to get over to that shift stop. So break loose both of these Allens here and here, and then that little plate that's behind the Allens is going to slide down to this plate right here. That's what you want. You want it down all the way, and then you just want to tighten those down so that the shift stop is in a position to where you can get into 5th gear comfortably, and you have that nice wiggle. You hear that? So that's what you want. You want to engage that shift stop, have that nice crisp engagement. I mean, there's just no pushing the shifter past that. You have that just totally slam it over and up. That is exactly how you want it set up for 5th and for 6th gear. And last but not least, let's just go through all the gears and check that it's set up right. When we're in gear, we want to have a little bit of a wiggle for 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. So I'm going to show you guys here. 1st gear, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. Get that nice crisp engagement. You hear the gear stop working. Our shift stops are working. Totally amazing. Now, if you are shifting into the gears, let's say you're having a hard time getting into 1st or 2nd, it could be a cable adjustment. You could have that cable end on your OEM cable that needs to shift forward or shift back. So that's where you're going to want to reference that Sharpie mark that you made earlier to double check that's working properly. Once you confirm that is all working how it should be, you're going to want to reinstall this little hitch pin that was keeping your OEM cable onto your factory shifter. This is going to go back into the same spot on the DM-3. It's going to go right at the end of that plastic housing of the OEM cable where it connects to the DM-3. So I'm going to put my hands underneath the cable, and I'm going to find the little hole in the black part, and I'm going to slip this through. So before we put everything back together, I just want to show you how to adjust the height of your DM-3, which might have been one of the reasons why you bought it, to get it up higher or get it up shorter, or just fine tune it to how you like it. So what we're going to do first, take your thumb, you're going to unclip that reverse collar right there, should be nice and loose, and then you're just going to take your fingers and you're going to rotate the boot collar here around the knurled edge, and if you loosen it, it's going to bring the shifter height up. If you tighten it, it's going to push the shifter height down. Now you're not actually tightening or loosening anything, you're just adjusting it. I just thought it'd be great to set it up in a way that if it felt like you were loosening something, it was coming out, and if you were tightening it, it would be as if it's going down. So that's how the adjustment works. Once you get the shift height set into adjustment to how you like it, what you're going to want to do, make sure the collar's down all the way, and then just close the lever back into the collar, and now you're good to go. I'm about to install the center console piece with the shift boot back on, and I just want to make a quick note. Grab a pair of side cutters like this and cut this tab from the shift boot down flush with the trim. It should look something like that. The tab used to look something like that, and you'll want to just stick them down there flush and snip snip. Well, guys, that wraps up the install video. If you have any questions during the install or something you need more detail on, something you're running into, any technical questions, email me support@darkmatterx.com. And you know what else? I have a phone number. I'm a real person, so call me, text me. I'll give you that phone support that I know you want, if you prefer that over email. I know I can't stand when I'm trying to get a hold of somebody and I can't talk to somebody, right? That's like the most frustrating thing. So call me, text me. I'll give you that phone number. If you email me, obvious reasons I don't want to put it in the video, but I take care of my customers. So let me know if you have any questions. Enjoy your new shifter. There's nothing that even comes close to touching this experience. It's absolutely insane. The feedback, the value received out of this shifter, the physical feedback and experience you get. When I designed this thing, I really stopped caring about cost. I just said, you know what, I'm going to just make it the way I want to make it, the way it needs to be made. And that was really how I approached this, to get the best possible product that could be made. Not trying to cut corners, not trying to use a thinner piece of metal or make something a way that wasn't going to work the way I wanted it, the way it needs to work. So that was how I approached this, guys. And I'll leave it at that. I'll get into that in other videos. So thanks again for watching. Follow along. Comment what you think. Like, subscribe it. Would really appreciate it. Thank you, guys.